Well, hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm your host, Tania Kolar, helping you live a life you love. As you know, I always talk about your mindset being like a muscle that needs to be worked. You got to work out that muscle, right? We work at our biceps, our triceps, and our abs. We know the importance of that, but we forget about our mindset. And our mindset is equated to absolutely everything in our life. So it's important that we really foster good care for our mindset and be positive and encouraging to ourselves. And really important is to have a self belief. So on today's show, I want to talk about career change, because that's a big one for a lot of people. And I find that people get stuck in a mindset of believing that they're too old to try something new. And the reality is, you're never too old. The brain is plastic, right? It's like neuroplasticity. We can mold and create and learn anything at any age. So it's so important that we, start to work out those neuro cells, those transmitters in the brain, so that we can cultivate a life that we love. So when we start a career later in life, again, our mindset kind of kicks in and takes over and says, well, we can't do that. You're not good enough. You're too old. You're too tall. You're too short. You're too this. You're too that. Well, today we're going to encourage you to fully embrace where you are and to go for your dreams. So whether that is a job, a new job, a change, or something else that you really want to foster in your life, I want you to pay attention. And I've brought the experts on who can help you really learn how to have that belief in yourself, how to brand yourself, how to be the best version of yourself. So coming up, we're going to hear from Charlene De Silva, and my guest right now, as we jump into the conversation, is Alper Ahmet. Alper, it's a pleasure having you here on the Mindset Mentor today. I know that you are the manager and you spearhead the team. You're a team leader at Remax Specialist. And thank you for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanya. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to chatting with you. And yeah, I'm a big believer in the mindset and the fact that, we can definitely shape our future.
Yes, we can absolutely shape and mold our future. And so many people get stuck in the limiting beliefs and the lack and the doubt and the failure to believe in themselves. So it's really important to have these conversations. And I love that in the world of real estate, there is so much opportunity to really flourish and to grow and to brand yourself. That sort of a niche. Everybody is unique and different. I think that real estate is a key opportunity to highlight some of those differences and the uniqueness that we all have. And from my own personal experience, I just want to quickly let the listeners know that I get it. I know what it feels like to think, well, do I really want to change careers at this stage in my life?
Mhm.
And I took that plunge. Listen, I love what I do in the world of personal development and mindset, but I also know the importance of being agile and adaptable in today's world. And I took that risk and decided to pursue a career in real estate. And of course, I brought my friends on to help everyone understand what that feels like. So, Alper, this is so cool to have this conversation. So, anybody listening right now, what can you tell them if they're in that space of going, oh my gosh, it's not possible for me to try something new? And one of the biggest beliefs, I think, Alper, is, ageism. We think, well, I'm too old to do this, or they're not going to
Mhm.
hire me because of my age. So let's start there. And what would you say to people?
Yeah, definitely. The age thing is definitely a limited belief that a lot of people have to get over, especially in the real estate industry. Nobody really cares if you're too young or too old, as long as you can help them navigate through this process and make it not only, fun and enjoyable, but make it a smooth transition. We have agents at our office that are 19 years old and 79 years old. No one really has a perfect recipe at what age to get into any business. So I find it super exciting that you had a successful career and now you want to try something new. There's nothing better than constantly challenging yourself and stepping outside of the box. that's something that I teach my agents all the time is, step out of your box, step out of that norm and feel how nice it feels to do something different and to, challenge yourself and then do another challenge every day and kind of get better and better. So yeah, definitely. I find that very silly to be a limiting belief is age, being too, I thought I was too young when I got in the business when I was 24 years old and I had a baby face and I said, oh, no one's going to want to work with me. But I put myself out there and people wanted to work with me and people will want to work with you no matter your age.
I love that. It's so true. I think when you are authentic and you just resonate that frequency, I think you just attract people to you. The right people will be drawn to you. And I think it's really important to remember who you are and not try to be somebody else. I think it's important to also look at some of our past history. I mean, there's an advantage. So there's a huge advantage starting career later in life because the wisdom that you have amassed right throughout
Right.
the years can be so impactful. And it's important to sort of look at some of those skills and the transferable skills. So let's talk a little bit about some of the
Mhm.
transferable skills that make sense in the world of real estate and how they can be sort of branded to position yourself in the market.
Yeah, I love that. Because I don't want to change anybody from their authentic self. You have introverts and you have extroverts and you have everybody in between. And I find that most of us are on the side of introvert. And it's easy for me to make people step out of their box just a little bit as an introvert. Whereas an extrovert, it's harder for them to kind of come back and speak slowly and relax. They're more very fast paced. They want to get everything out and speak really quick and get everything off their mind. But I don't think that is the biggest deal. Like I have people that come from backgrounds of, athletics or backgrounds from, nothing to do with sales, tradesmen who come into business and they bring a totally different aspect to the game. They understand, the workings of a house and how the plumbing and electrical and all these things work. So everybody that comes in from different careers, honestly, no matter what the career is, you could find a way to get your previous experience to help you with this new career in real estate or any type of sales.
Yeah, I love that because, there is definitely an advantage to some of our natural innate skills that
Mhm.
we want to promote as a business, right? Even things like communication, listening. People think sometimes, well, I don't have any skills. Maybe they don't have technology savvy sort of capabilities, but
Mhm.
anything can be learned, right? If we put our mind to it, we absolutely can learn new things. And in fact, it's wonderful when we start to learn new things because then that's where the confidence really starts to come in and it propels us forward. And that's creating that dopamine hit, right? Which allows us to keep on going and keep on
That's
going for
right.
more and more, right?
That's right.
But things like communication and listening skills, I feel are so underrated as actual skills, but yet are
Uh-huh.
so impactful. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great point. I've actually just been listening and reading a book. I can't remember the author's name, but he says that as people, we're not really good listeners. You know what I mean? I think it was an FBI negotiator, and he was talking about how when they're negotiating with somebody, there's usually three, four, five people who he wants listening in on a call because everybody hears things a little bit differently. You might miss something or catch something that someone else, it might go right over their heads. So I really find that listening is a huge, huge skill learned. And sometimes, in sales and, I kind of hate to use the analogy, the used car salesman, they're telling and telling and telling and telling is selling. We try to teach people the art of asking a question and listening. That I find is the real skill in building relationships and helping people get to their next point. Listening to them, asking the right questions, listening again, and sometimes asking those uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a big one. It's so true because when you fully listen and you're present,
Mhm.
really value and honor that person. They feel heard and they also feel, I think, much more comfortable in sharing. They open up because they feel validated, right? And that's one of the basic human needs is feeling
Mhm.
validated and feeling significant. So when you can check that box off, I think you're,
Bingo. Yeah.
right. ahead of the game, really, right? And so really, really important. And I want to go back to branding, about the importance of highlighting your skills and your talents and your gifts, because I think so many people shy away from promoting themselves because they feel that, well, then I feel like I'm maybe full of myself, or it's arrogance or ego, and they maybe don't want to be perceived a certain way. So how can you suggest that people start to promote themselves in a way that feels comfortable?
Well, again, kind of going back to being your authentic self and not worrying so much about what the 1-5% of people who are going to judge you. Once you could get over that mental block, and just being yourself, and yeah, self-promotion is great. Tell people how good you are. There's nothing wrong with that. And we're so limited to that because we're so worried about, oh, but what's so and so going to think and what's so and so going to say. And if you're just constantly limiting yourself to thinking, holding yourself back because what somebody's going to think or what somebody's going to say, I find that so silly. And I really try to push my agents and push people to understand, like, who cares? You know what I mean? You're great who you are. You're a great, whatever that attribute is. Let the people know. Like, if you're funny, if you're serious, if you're great at accounting or math, let everybody know. If you sold a house, great. Post it on the billboards. Let everybody know. Scream it from the rooftop. Um, celebrate those things and let people know. And honestly, who cares what the negative people think and the haters?
Yeah, that's a really great point. And, to celebrate your wins, I think is
Mhm.
also, important in allowing us to continue following our path and whatever direction that path takes us. It's important to recognize those small wins because it keeps us motivated. And then it also gives you confidence that you're not worried about the competition. You're not so focused on
Yeah.
what everybody else is doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And who cares what they're doing? Even being a little bit vulnerable is fine. You don't always have to be this perfect person. Some vulnerability is great so people could kind of relate to you. I think is super important too. Like, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So, you could kind of let your gags and your silliness come out. That was one of the mental blocks for me was, I had this image or this reputation of who I am, and then people kind of meet me and be like, "Oh, you're much more laid back. You're much more fun in person." And sometimes I struggle with that, and we all do. Just kind of being yourself is what attracts people. I think you said that earlier about kind of the frequency and stuff that you put out there. I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah, people will resonate to just your true inner being, right? And we try so hard sometimes to be somebody else. And listen, I've been there too, where, I portray that my life is perfect and nothing bothers me and I'm never upset and I'm always okay. But the reality is that that's not natural, right? We are humans with a natural range of emotion and we're not always going to feel 100%. But I think the difference is that we really don't want to, get too focused and critical of ourselves where we stay in that mindset of negativity, right? It's normal to have some negative
Exactly.
thoughts, but we don't want to live there, right?
No. Well, that's why I think it's super important to constantly be feeding yourself good information, good content. I've
Mhm.
learned very early on to turn my car into a place of learning and spiritual gaining and mindset growth instead of listening to the bad news or whatever, because we're inundated by it. But if you could put good stuff in, you're gonna put good stuff out. And I think that again, going back to tying it back to the personal brand is basically who you are. And that's fine. I think that's huge for people to understand.
Yeah, it's a big one, right? Just be yourself and be okay with that and be okay with not being perfect and making mistakes because
Mhm.
that is a part of life. And in fact, if we kind of start to dissect our lives and look back, we can see that any sort of so-called mistakes, because there really are no mistakes, they're just learning opportunities, but those so-called mistakes are just nuggets of wisdom that can be so transformative in life. And, that's where the growth really happens. And it's so important to just try new things, even though it feels uncomfortable. I always
Mhm.
tell people you want to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable because
I love
that's
that.
right. True transformation happens in that moment.
For sure. Like I said, I come from a background of kind of being an introvert and sticking to myself, and maybe not doing these things in the past, and kind of limiting myself. But again, stepping outside of my comfort zone has been so wicked, like so fun. I've had experiences that I never thought I would have ever had, if I had to just stayed in my little box and worried what everybody thought, and crumpled into the corner. But being myself and getting out there, I've had experiences and moments in my life that are really cool.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Alper, because you talked about, yourself being an introvert, and now you can't believe some of the things that you've done. And I find that fascinating that an introvert is now a leader, right? A team leader in the
Yeah,
entire Remax specialist company, and
yeah.
helping people to thrive and to, be bold and to be brave and to get out
Mhm.
there. So when it comes to self-branding and
Mhm.
promotion, which is really important, I think, in this day and age for really any business, any owner, anybody who wants to sort of a network. Where would you say is a good place to start? I mean, I think, as far as like a business goes, and we all know that LinkedIn is a kind of a natural sort of a place to gravitate to, but where else would you suggest that we start?
So yeah, go just kind of touching on the personal brand. No matter what you do nowadays, you're a brand. I've seen home cooks turn their passion and their hobby into a brand.
Mm-hmm.
Collectors and builders turn their hobbies into a brand. So everybody now is a brand. No matter what it is. Mine is Alper Ahmet / real estate. That's my brand. I'm gonna take it and run with it. But if we want to break it down to specifics, right now, at the top of the food chain, of course, is Instagram. You need to have an Instagram page. You need to be
Mm-hmm.
visible on Instagram. And I have a 1-5-10 rule. One post a day, 5 comments, 10 likes every single day. And if you're doing that, you'll stay high in the algorithms of Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what you're promoting or what you're doing, people want to interact with people. So you want to make sure you're commenting and you're leaving thoughtful comments and engaging comments and communicating with people, and not just commenting for the sake of commenting and giving a thumbs up or a smiley face. Actual engagement is huge nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And we could talk more about that later, but at the top of the game, at the top of the food chain, I'd say is Instagram. And then a good second and third would be Facebook, and LinkedIn is coming back hard nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what business you're in, people are back on LinkedIn searching for professionals, seeing how long you've done, where you're at in your career, who you're with, how many companies you've been with. So LinkedIn and Facebook are close. And then I think every single person on this planet should have a YouTube channel, no matter what you're doing. YouTube can, you can have a video on YouTube and it could blow up 10 years later. Whereas Instagram, Facebook, and these other ones are more instant. And then obviously TikTok. I have been on TikTok, and I'm kind of, I'm not out there making as many TikToks as possible. But yeah, so I'm finding that people are doing their research for people via TikTok and Instagram, and still reverting to Google or Facebook to purchase. That's why Facebook Marketplace is a huge place that's blown up. And
Mm-hmm.
then for any business, the first thing, sometimes it blows my mind, some people don't have a Google business page. Google reviews and Google business pages are going to be the way of the future. Um, kind of, you got to embrace these things, and you have to embrace the technology. And I think Google is huge. You Google me, I Google you, we're all Googling everybody. So you need to have a presence on Google. And then in regards to the personal branding, consistency is key.
Mm-hmm.
When people Google Tania Kolar or Google Alper Ahmet, there's consistent themes that keep coming through. Even if the images is constantly the same, the branding is going to be there. Obviously, an updated photo for realtors is sometimes something they forget to do. So I think those would kind of be my hierarchy of the social medias and kind of where to start,
Mm-hmm.
and how to brand. Um, and things that are coming back maybe slowly, maybe Pinterest, but not so much, depending on, if what you're doing is more artsy and visual, then obviously Pinterest would be the way to go to.
Interesting. I love this. Such great information there. You shared a lot. And, it's interesting because you talked about how important it is to comment and to like and to post, and that engagement piece. And I kind of was thinking about, as you were talking, that That's almost like listening, right? That's like the modern, version of listening because, just like the thumbs up or a happy face or whatever, that's like
Mm,
passive listening, right? Not fully engaged. But when you can engage in those comments and, write something that's thoughtful, something that, is valuable, that makes sense
exactly.
or continues the conversation, that's like just magic happening right there.
Yeah, and not only is it magic to the person and to us, but really what we're trying to do is manipulate these algorithms. So we're staying high in the algorithm. And social media companies love engagement. You know, that's how they figure out who to help you follow and who to suggest is
Mm.
and there's a song out there and it's funny, I don't know why this came to my mind, but it says it goes down in the DMs. And it's true. You know, they want if they see that I'm DMing somebody a video of Tanya or someone's DM'd a video of Alper, like that boosts our algorithm. And that's huge. That's why you'll see a lot of a lot of successful people in the social media game saying, you know, don't forget to save this, don't forget to tag this, and DM this to a friend that may find it as a valuable. So those things are super important. And if you're trying to build your brand, help somebody else build their brand. You know, I find to give is sometimes better, and then you'll eventually receive.
Oh, and that's such a great advice. I love that. It's that balance of giving and receiving. Life is always about that balance. We don't live life on this planet alone. It's so important to
Mhm.
have connection and to be proactive and to go for your dreams and to live a life that feels fulfilling. And listen, it is never too late to start a career or a hobby that you love. Take a chance, take a risk, jump
Yeah.
out of the comfort zone, right, Alper?
Yes, let's do it. Like we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. I know it's so cliche, but you know, what's the point of living this limited life when everything is out there? You just got to put yourself out there. Take a chance. You know, 5 seconds of courage is what I tell people. Lights, camera, action, and have that courage and do it. You fail, you fail. Who cares?
Yeah, you learn from those failures and it's okay. That just means you're
That's
human,
right.
right? But you went for your dreams and it just creates such an incredible physiology in the body when you've done something so important for yourself. And, you can sort of get that high and that propels you to the next level. So I want to say thank you, Alper Ahmet, for joining us today on the Mindset Mentor. It's a pleasure having your wisdom and your knowledge and your leadership to guide us and to let people know that, hey, listen, you can do it because life is working for you. It's happening for you and not to you.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to chat with you as always, and hi to all your people.
Awesome. All right. And Alper, where can everybody get more information about you and what you do?
Yeah, Alper Ahmet / real estate. Alper Ahmet, Google me. Like I said, you Google me, I'll Google you. You'll find me anywhere on Google. And yeah, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Well, that was Alper Ahmet helping us to live a life that we love. Yes, you can reach out and grab your dreams because you are a magnificent being born into a magnificent world. Stay tuned. More coming up here on the Mindset Mentor on Sauga 960. Well, hello and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate your best life. So, we just heard from Alper Ahmet, and we were talking about, starting a career later in life and some of the challenges that we can face, especially our own inner challenges, the mindset takes over and takes us sometimes in some interesting directions. And speaking of interesting directions, when it comes to real estate, there is this huge belief out there that, oh my goodness, it's not the right time to buy, it's scary, the interest rates are rising, what to do. And so many people have questions. So today I want to help you answer those questions. I've brought in the director of experience and the real estate broker with Remax Enterprises, Charlene De Silva, to help answer those questions. Charlene, it's such a pleasure having you here on the Mindset Mentor today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tanya. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, this is really great because I think timing is everything, right, in life. And right now, everybody is sort of like on pause because they're afraid to move forward. And fear, as we know, in any part of life, not just in, real estate, purchasing, buying, all that kind of stuff, but just in life in general, fear can keep us stuck in places that we don't want to be. So I want to help people sort of navigate this sort of a tough market or tougher market, right, so to speak, and kind of understand how can they move forward and not feel so helpless and immobilized when it comes to real estate. So let's start with that. How does this climate affect the reality of sales today?
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that we're in a different market than we've experienced over the past few years. When COVID first hit, I think everybody in real estate were kind of fearful that what was going to happen is what we are now experiencing. And what we experienced during COVID was quite contrary. We had an uptick in sales and multiple offers and all these types of things. And so everyone kind of rode that wave. Sellers made a great deal of money on their properties, but the growth was not sustainable growth. As lovely as it is to increase 30% year over year, that's just not the reality. Historically, it's never been the reality. And it kind of puts an already unaffordable market into a much more unaffordable place for most people. Now what we're experiencing is what we call a balanced market, whereas what we were experiencing before was a seller's market. And while this balanced market might feel kind of scary and might feel, I don't even know what the right word is, but paralyzing probably is the right word for so many buyers and sellers and agents alike. The balance is actually a good thing. We don't want our price growth to be 30% year over year. For the general population, it doesn't make sense. A balanced market helps both buyers and sellers. It helps, sellers understand what their true value for their homes are, not just kind of tossing out a number and seeing what sticks on the wall. And for buyers, it gives them a chance to buy and sell with confidence because, they can do home inspections again. They can have financing conditions, all these things that were taken away from buyers during the peak of our market. But the funny thing is the buyers have been asking for this market for so long, and now we have it and they don't want to buy.
Yeah.
So what happens, right?
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah, it's so interesting.
It's a mindset thing. And I think it's always that, you want what everybody else wants. And now that nobody wants it, I don't want it either. But the reality is this is the perfect market, not just for buyers. I don't want to encourage buyers to think that they have this opportunity to go out and get massive deals on properties because yes, our market numbers are down slightly. But year over year, we're actually 3% up in price still. So there isn't much of a bargain to be had. But there is opportunity, and there's opportunity to secure properties in a normal environment with the ability to think things through, to make decisions that are right for you and your family, and not like this rush decision that they've been making over the past few years.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that's a great point because, there was a time where there were bidding wars like crazy. And people were losing property after property, through negotiations because there were 16 offers on the table at one time. And so therefore those home inspections were taken out, which were, needed. They're always essential, right, to have. Right.
Yeah.
But people needed that leverage. So there is that opportunity to pause, to create more leverage, have really meaningful ways of moving forward and navigating that market and the offers, and to, really now be in a position where people can thrive. And I think that, again, is that mindset and that fear can really, skew our perspective and our reality. And oftentimes it comes from outside sources. So I love to have these conversations to just let people know that, well, hold on a second, there's another way to look at things, right? Because sometimes we just don't think about that. Somebody was telling me the other day that, okay, listen, so yes, the interest rates are up, they are higher, but then that means that the house prices are actually lower. So in the end, your mortgage rates are actually, probably even less. Right.
Pretty much.
And so, yeah.
And the reality is too, like these mortgage rates aren't going to last forever. So if you're picking up a house today for 800,000, let's just say, versus 2 years ago when you would have paid $1 million for it. Yeah, your interest rates are higher, but your payments are roughly the same. But guess what? Those interest rates aren't going to stay there forever. So now you've picked up a house for 800, where the interest rates start going down, you're actually going to see massive drops in your mortgage prices and massive gains in your equity. This is the market you want to get into. When you get into a market that's already very inflated, your risk is much higher, because like we saw, people that purchased in the height of 2022 have lost a significant amount of money on their properties, unfortunately. Buying right now, more than likely, you're only going to see gains. The chance of seeing loss is much slimmer, right? So your risk tolerance is better in a market like this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, I mean, nobody has a crystal ball and can foreshadow, what's going to happen moving forward, but there is talk about, in the next 2 to 3 years that there's going to be a drop in that interest rate. So I think that, that's important to consider, especially, and even like taking, let's say, a first-time home buyer into consideration, that people are always like, well, do I, buy now or do I wait? Well, I think any first-time home buyer, the time to buy is right away, as soon as possible, as soon as you can dip your toe into the market. And so that you have, the ability to build that equity and to go from there. And I think that as far as, interest rates goes, if that's holding people back, just remember that, you can renegotiate your interest rates, right? Get into the market. So important to get into the market, and I know for me, many years ago, when I purchased my first condo, I thought it was impossible. I never thought I would be able to do it. And then, I did the research and I started thinking about it, and, it was not as difficult as I thought, right? And it was possible. It did become possible. And, then but the important thing is that I took the chance and I got into the market, and it's always the right time to get into the market when you're not in it, right?
For sure. And you look at, especially first-time home buyers, right? If they're not in the market right now, there's one or two things happening. They're either staying at home with their parents, which isn't the most ideal, but happening a lot, or they're renting. And guess what? The rental market prices are so high right now that not only are you paying someone else's mortgage, you might as well be paying your own for the prices that they're charging you. But you're not building that equity. If you have a down payment as a first-time home buyer, this is a perfect market for you to get into. You have lots of inventory options, which is fantastic. Yes, the rates are a little higher, but you're still going to qualify for whatever you're qualifying for. So if there's properties in that qualification bracket that meet your criteria, jump on it. Because guess what? 2025, the foreign buyer ban is gone. We have 500,000 plus immigrants coming to the country every year. They're coming with money. The competition is there. The interest rates aren't going to stop these people from purchasing. So if you're not purchasing now and you're waiting for, 2 years from now when the interest rates might come down, you're also dealing with a new pool of buyers that are coming into the market at the same time. And that price is just going to go up, up, up. So great, you can afford a cheaper interest rate, but now are the prices affordable for you? Because they might not be.
That's a really great point, and it's a lot to consider. And, I think it's important to just get the information out there to the public, because again, that fear can really take over. And then inactivity is, the biggest procrastination. People are just stuck on the fence of like, okay, how do I move forward? Do I move forward? And then they just don't do anything. And I think it's so important to be proactive in life and to start really making our dreams come true. And not only from, say like a buyer and seller perspective, but also for the agents. And, I was sharing earlier on the show, Charlene, with Alper, about, how we can sort of, start a new career later in life, which that's exactly what I did. Now I'm still doing, my passion and what I love, and, with the show and the mindset piece. But I've also delved into the real estate market. I've become a real estate agent, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I got to tell you that it's interesting because, the mindset, initially I had those moments like, oh my goodness, like, can I do this? Should I be doing this? But they're brief moments, right? Because now I've worked so much on my mindset and I've reprogrammed my mindset that I know that I use that as ammunition to move forward instead of feeling immobilized. And it's been amazing. And I have an incredible $2.5 million listing, a gorgeous penthouse
Wow.
condo, and that's exciting. And that for me was validation that, listen, I am on the right path. And I love to share these experiences because I want people to know that they are on the right path, that they can reach out and grab their dreams and just go for it. Get out of your comfort zone because, nothing truly extraordinary ever happens in a comfort zone.
Yeah, it's so true. And honestly, I talk to our agents all the time. Just had an agent in with me just half an hour ago. And one of the biggest things that we were talking about was limiting beliefs, right? And we all have it, whether it's in real estate or in life in general. And I think a lot of newer realtors, younger realtors, older realtors, it doesn't matter. They all come in with these limiting beliefs like, oh, I'm new to the business. I'm never going to get a $2.5 million listing right off the hop.
Mhm.
Or, I'm only 27. Who's going to trust me with their $4 million listing? The reality is, if you believe it, you will achieve it. And so I really do. I'm a huge believer of mindset. I think it is everything. I think what you put out into the universe, you attract. And the more negativity that we put out into the universe, the more we limit ourselves by thinking that we can't do something. We create those barriers for ourselves. No one is creating them for us, right? So excellent. I'm so proud of you, by the way, for getting that $2.5 million listing. You have done phenomenal so far in the industry, and it's amazing
Oh,
to watch.
wow. Oh, thank you. You know what? I love that. And, I take, wisdom from experts like you in the industry. And, I listen. And I think that's important to see other people's success and to know that it is possible no matter where you're starting. It doesn't matter how old you are, what shape or size you are, how tall or short you are, if you're a male, female, it doesn't matter. The point is that in life, we have to try. And I think it's so funny because I remember, an agent came canvassing and knocked on my door. We had a great conversation. I did tell him that, I was, in real estate. And it was funny because he said something like, oh, well, it's so much easier for women. Right. And I was like,
Interesting.
wow, isn't
That's the
that
first time I've
funny?
heard that.
Yeah, right. No kidding. And that's so funny. It's like whatever our beliefs are, it really shapes our reality. And, I really want people to start, embracing the magnificence of who they are and the limitless possibilities because we are the ones that put a cap on our happiness. We are the ones that put a cap on our success. And there is no limit. The only limit is the belief system that we have and our perception.
For sure. Yeah. And you know what? Going back to real estate and the way that others talk and get into your head,
Mhm.
I think one of the biggest factors in this market right now is the media. And I hate to say it, but the media is really making people feel scared and worried, and it's doom and gloom and all these things, and they kind of lose sight. At the end of the
Mhm.
day, when it comes to real estate, we always say, there's no such thing as timing the market. But the reality is, people have to move for whatever reason. Whether you are expecting a new child or you are changing locations for work, there's always a need to move. And I think as long as people understand that and not like they don't hold on to these moments where, I'm just going to wait. Like, I need to move, but I'm going to wait for 2 years and see what happens.
Yeah.
We got to act now and stop limiting ourselves and stop letting these external factors really decide what's right for us.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's like how we do one thing is how we do everything in life. And I was just thinking about that. And even down to something simple as, let's say, exercise and working out, right? We always think, okay, well, we should do it. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And all of a sudden, like 3 months have passed by and we haven't stepped foot in the gym, or we haven't stepped on that treadmill, or we haven't stepped on that, elliptical trainer. And then the 3 months passes by and then we don't feel our optimal self. But if we started and took that little chance and just a few moments to jump on that treadmill or whatever it is, get to the gym, just put on your exercise clothes, you're one step closer to that goal. It's so important because that's where you start to see the transformation. So it doesn't have to be this big giant shift, and you don't need to be, spending, way beyond your budget when it comes to, real estate. You obviously have to be able to afford getting into the market, right? If you can't afford to get into the market, then you're going to have to wait a little bit, right? But
For sure.
when we think that we have to wait because conditions have to be perfect, guess what? Conditions will never be perfect in life.
They'll never be perfect. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. And I tend to say to my clients too, we have two types of markets. We have the market where you think with your emotions and the market where you think with your head. And, we lived through the market where you thought with your emotions over the past few years, where people got heightened. They were spending more than they should because they felt like they couldn't get anything. They were scared of losing. And that was all emotionally driven. Now we're in a market where you can think with your head, and it's a great place to be because you can sleep on things. You don't have to like go see a property and put an offer in right away. You can, think through your decisions. And so in the long run, the decisions aren't going to feel painful. They're not going to feel like mistakes because you've thought through them, and so we are seeing things still moving in this market. Like, it's not like we are completely stalled. Things are taking a little bit like longer to move, and that's perfectly okay. For the majority of my 11 years in this business, properties took 3 weeks to 2 months to sell, and that was perfectly normal.
Right.
It's only really been in these past couple of years that we've gotten used to this crazy market, and now it's become the new expectation, but it's not the reality.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's just like the market's really just leveled off. It's sort of balanced. It's rebalanced from this really inequitable place, right? So it's kind of interesting, and I love the knowledge and the wisdom that you're sharing. And thank you for your guidance and encouragement. I'm very happy to get the listing, the $2.5 million penthouse condo, which, by the way, everyone, is so gorgeous. I love being in there every moment. And I encourage people to have a look. You can listen, or of course you can listen to the show as a podcast after. But if you want to have a look at the YouTube channel, you can watch the show. You can see my special guests, Charlene De Silva and Alper Ahmet, and really take a look also at the condo. I'm going to put a link so that people can have a look at it, because I want people to know what is possible for them. And there was a time, as I mentioned, when I first got my first condo, and by the way, it was not even near 2.5 million. But I got into the market, and I was so proud, and I love that experience. But I also have evolved, and I now know that I can have a $2.5 million condo, and certainly a listing. And see, it's all about what we allow ourselves to experience. And as a director of experience, Charlene, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do. And I can say I saw your condo. It is stunning. It has been in my dreams ever since. Definitely something to aspire to for myself. But it's a great place. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. And, I thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and helping us to navigate a really tough environment right now when it comes to the world of real estate, because it can be daunting. It can be terrifying, to some. And I think it's important to know that we always have options in life, and to never feel hopeless. That's the tricky part, is where people feel hopeless, and, that creates depression and can lead to more serious consequences. So I want everybody listening to know that you can cultivate a life you love. Never give up on your dreams. Charlene, thank you so much for being here. And can you let everyone know how they can get more information about you?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. First of all, I really enjoy my time here. I'm Charlene De Silva. You can find me on Instagram at Charlene_De Silva, DESILVA. And yeah, I'm always here and available for any realtor or anybody that wants to chat.
I love it. I love it. Paying it forward to everyone, right? I love that. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. So remember that it's so important to really work out your mindset, work on it, enjoy those moments that happen in life, right? They don't have to be monumental, because every moment counts. And this was your mindset workout. Stay tuned to see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. here on Sauga 960.